I have no $10,000, and if without it, I wouldn't have been able to attend some of the conferences that I attended and make some of the connections that I did. I got my travel paid for, my hotel, my flights, and I got the ticket to attend the conference all paid for. After you finish the 6 sessions of coaching, you get to apply to a $5,000 scholarship. Even though you might be learning the same stuff, you're not at the same point in time in life when you listen to it the second time. So you're going to get something out of it different every time because you're never going to be at the same point in life. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow. I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing episodes we got coming on this year. So without further ado, we're going to get right into this one. So in this episode, we're going to pick up where we left off in the last one of how a billionaire stole my shoe and I got paid $10,000 for it. And so last episode, I told you you have to spend a day with Gary Kettler himself, and he dropped a whole bunch of wisdom bombs. As I said, spending 8 hours straight. We had one break, which was lunch, but besides that, 8 hours straight, pretty much just getting random information that you've never heard before or just a brand new perspective. Like you're getting life advice from a billionaire. Like there's not too many billionaires out there. If I'm not mistaken, there's only like 2,500 or so like recorded billionaires. There's probably a lot more. I know for a fact there's a lot more that aren't recorded, bro. There's a lot of people with FU money that you have never heard about in your life, I feel, that will never be made public, but at least publicly known, it's 2,500 people. And if I'm not mistaken. And so from there, that day after, that Saturday, you get to spend a whole day in groups. So back in a smaller setting. And the groups were about 10 or so people. And each group was assigned an instructor. And so each group, you went through the different exercises. And my big takeaway from that day is that I created my mission statement. And my mission statement is, at least from Walk to Wealth, is to enlighten and empower young adults to build a wealthy, abundant life. And it comes from Plato's allegory of the cave. So the duty of the enlightened is to enlighten the unenlightened. Now, how I got that is a story for another day, but long story short, that's where my mission statement comes from. And we pretty much just broke down what we learned in that full day with Gary into like smaller, more tangible, practical bits and pieces of information that were easy to grasp. And because, as I said, a full day of just new, profound ideas that you've never heard before, where everything sounds foreign to you. Man, it's a lot to just even try to remember or keep up with. So that second day was super helpful. Now, for anyone that is, as I said, wondering how I got the 10,000 part. So after you finish the summit, you get access to 6 sessions of coaching. Now, you could either apply for real estate coaching, or you could apply for just regular business coaching, right? You get 6 sessions. I went through for real estate coaching at that time because at the time I was still trying to be a top agent. And then from there, I got assigned my coach. His name is Mark. Mark is from down south in Florida. And so me and Mark hop on our first call. And by the time we hop on our first call, I was not focusing on real estate anymore. That's when I was starting to shift to focusing on my Stop and Stare media stuff before Stop and Stare turned into Stop and Stare. And so I was just like, you know, I'm not really interested in the real estate stuff anymore. Like I really want to do the podcast stuff and the marketing stuff. And he was really understanding. And so our sessions after that were all pretty much centered around like the podcast and trying to get the marketing thing going. And that's what helped me really get kickstarted with the marketing stuff and trying to turn it into a business and really helped me focus on podcasts. And he actually connected me with someone named Quentin. Now, Quentin's, I'm not sure, his episode hasn't dropped at this point in time, but it might be out. And Quentin, he's a mortgage lender down south in Florida as well. Really dope guy, has a dope podcast called What's Your One More? And it was one of those things where it's like, he connected me with him, and then afterwards we were actually able to grow that connection and collab with each other. Like that's what I consider like a great connection. Like if you can start collabing with each other, or they can connect you to other people, right, to do collabs with, that's like what a solid connection is. And so me and Quentin was able to, hit it off and do some collabs with each other, hop on each other's shows. And then after you finish the 6 sessions of coaching, you get to apply to a $5,000 scholarship, right? And you can use the scholarship for virtually, there's some constraints, but for the most part, for like education, you can use it for conferences, you can use it for courses, you can use it to help with your business, to help fund, getting equipment that you need, and from what I know. And I used it for conferences, and now you could apply for a $5,000 scholarship twice. And so the application to apply is free. They want to give out their money. They're not for profit. So it's like they have money they want to put into use, right? They want to give it to, kids and young adults who need it, like ourselves. And so for me, I applied both times, got it both times. The application process is pretty straightforward. They ask you a series of questions. And then from there, if you want, you can record a video, which I recorded a video for both times, just for a little extra brownie points. And then from there, They actually ended up, so for 2023 Quantum Leap, I didn't end up going, but on the checkout page, there was a photo of me speaking, which is dope to see because a bunch of my realtor friends who signed up or who signed their kids up, they went on the checkout page and then people seeing me. And so a lot of people recognized me from the checkout page, and I should have went, especially because I was on the checkout page. It would have been dope. It's like, yeah, you see that guy that checked out? That was me, right? But ended up not going. Long story short, I plan on probably going to the 2024 one just because no man walks through the same river twice or something like that. I forget. I think it's a quote pretty much meaning like, even though you might be learning the same stuff, you're not at the same point in time in life when you listen to it the second time. So you're going to get something out of it different every time because you're never going to be at the same point in life. And so for me, or for you guys that are interested, you don't have to be Keller Williams affiliated at all. You don't have to be a licensed agent. You don't have to work for Keller Williams full-time or even part-time, right? You don't have to be affiliated to Keller Williams at all. All you have to do is go on the Keller Williams Kids Care, KWKC, or Kids Can, I believe it is called, website. And then from there, you can buy your ticket to the next summit. And then once you get to the summit, as I said, there were a lot of kids that were still in college, a lot of kids who had no clue what they wanted to do, a lot of kids who didn't even know why they were there. They just knew their parents bought them tickets to go and they had to go. It's like, it's not just a whole bunch of like young real estate agents or young, hungry, ambitious people. It's a bunch of people that are very, very relatable, a bunch of normal college age people. It's 18 to 28. And so as long as you're between those ages, you could go to the summit. You could then apply for the coaching. After the 6 weeks of coaching, right, as I said, they have business coaching or they have real estate agent coaching. And so after you apply, you get the coaching, you go through your sessions, they'll help you get started. They'll help you craft your mission statement, and they'll help you craft your 411, which is pretty much like a game plan for how you're going to get your, accomplish your goal. And then there's another thing called a GPS. They're going to help you pretty much craft your GPS, which is like a one-page business plan. And the 411 is how you make that business plan come to life, essentially. Your coach is going to help you with the entire process. From there, as I said, once you finish, you get your coach to give you a recommendation, and then you apply for the scholarship. As I said, you can only apply for $5,000 per scholarship, but you can apply as many times as you want, but you can only receive a total of $10,000. So as I said, that's available to anyone, everyone. Highly recommend it. With that money that I got, I was able to go to the Kajabi conference that helped me make my $20,000 in an hour from that series. Going to that Kajabi conference helped out a ton. I was able to go to Podcast Movement. Now, Podcast Movement was not going to lie. But as I said, it wasn't my money. So at least I didn't spend my money for a conference. At least my personal experience with that was And then from there, I also had a conference in July that I went to called Create with Ken Jocelyn. Now, I interviewed Ken. His episode is already out. I think it came out sometime in July, if I'm not mistaken. I think his episode was like 1 something. And then from there, and there's a conference I'm going to in October called FinCon, which I'm really excited because at Podcast Movement, I met this guy named PJ who pretty much founded FinCon. So I got to meet the founder of the conference that I'm going to in October. And I got my travel paid for, my hotel, my flights, and I got the ticket to attend the conference all paid for with the scholarship money. And it was super easy. The process was super seamless. And as I said, it was definitely worth my while. And I want to go again for the conference. And eventually I want to become a Quantum Leap instructor. So that's going to be something that I'll work on next year. But for the time being, that's how I got the $10,000. And as I said, it's available to anyone. That's as long as you're between the ages of 18 and 28. You don't have to be affiliated with KW. This is not a sponsored episode or anything like that. I said, it just helped me out a ton because I have no $10,000. And if without it, I wouldn't have been able to attend some of the conferences that I attended and make some of the connections that I did. So that's how I made the 10K. That's how I met a billionaire. The goal is eventually to get him on the podcast. So we'll see how that goes. But that's all for this series. In my next one, I'm going to be teaching you guys how I got a 750 credit score and 500,000 points before the age of 21. So I'll see you guys in the next one.